What's up, everybody? This is Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse and the LCC Network for the 29th episode of our fantasy offseason. And we've got our wide receiver tight end rankings for you guys. And with me today, I've got Jameson and Cody on the show. What's happening, y'all?
Not much.
How's it going, y'all? Wide receiver rankings. Sorry, we missed last week, guys. It's been incredibly busy. We were all working a lot, so we're just kind of pushed back the schedule for the season, or the offseason, I guess, just 1 week, and we're gonna pick up with wide receivers like we promised last week. So, guys, are you ready to get into these? We're just gonna jump straight into it.
Let's do it.
Ready?
All right. So before we start, one quick thing. I know that we've talked about this a little bit before, but just keep in mind with receivers, probably more than any other position, we're ranking a lot of these guys. There's not much difference a lot of times between wide receiver 31 and wide receiver 40, right? Like in our rankings. So it just kind of keep that in mind as you look at guys and you think, wow, this guy's 10 from somebody else, but doesn't necessarily mean they're that much worse or better, right? So no surprises. We kind of kick off the top 10 here. Michael Thomas at 1, DeAndre Hopkins at 2, Devontae Adams at 3, Tyreek Hill 4, Julio Jones at 5, right? Those are pretty standard across the board. Move a guy up or down 1 or 2, but for the most part, that's pretty much every fantasy analyst's top 5 in the world, right? Number 6, Chris Godwin, 7, Amari Cooper, 8, Mike Evans, 9, DJ Moore, and 10, Kenny Galladay. Any one of those top 10 that you guys want to dive into a little bit? Any surprises in our top 10?
To me, I didn't expect him to rank him that high. Was Kenny Galladay? To me, in my head, I still haven't really categorized him as like a top 10 receiver yet. But when I did this, I was like, I cannot have him. You know what I mean? High. Like he's gonna have a good year. So I think for me, that was one that surprised me as I was ranking him personally. And he ended up falling in our top 10 because of that.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. I kind of had the same feeling. Like, I don't put him in that tier, but at the same time, I don't put Amari Cooper in that tier or DJ Moore in that tier, and they're kind of right there with him too. So I think I've just kind of accepted at this point that he's probably a top 10 receiver.
Yeah,
As
exactly.
weird as it sounds to say. But any thoughts, Cody, on those top 10?
I mean, with me, it's just like Chris Godwin and then Chris Godwin and I guess where's Mike Evans at?
He's number 8 in the consensus. Yeah.
So I think both of them just making, being that consensus top 10 again, it's really hard to get one guy in there off of a team, let alone like have 2 guy consecutive years. So
Yeah.
Just to see what goes on with that.
Yep. Number 11 guy, we'll kind of continue moving straight here because those aren't the surprising ones, right? Everyone's pretty much got those guys in the top 10. 11, Adam Thielen. 12, Cooper Kupp. 13 is Juju Smith-Schuster. 14, A.J. Brown. 15, OBJ. 16, Keenan Allen. 17, T.Y. Hilton. 18, Travis Kelce. 19, George Kittle. And 20, Stephon Diggs. Guys, I think the one that stands out to me the most, and probably most analysts, I guess, across the country, is OBJ, right? Like, what to do with him. He's had a couple down seasons. He's obviously a superstar. I've got him at 19. Pat's got him at 21. And Cody's got him up at number 9. So we clearly are not in agreement at all for any of us about what we expect from OBJ this season.
No, I mean, me personally, I think I've always been kind of down on OBJ for some reason, and obviously throughout his career, he's had a great career overall, and my thing is my biggest knock on him is the Cleveland Browns themselves, not necessarily OBJ as an athlete. Like, I know when OBJ gets the ball, he's gonna make things happen, right? I just worry about target share. I worry about production with that offense. Those are my biggest knocks in OBJ. And I get it. They have, they are somewhat of a different team coming into this year, but I mean, a team, they were so loaded last year. I mean, most people had the Browns being a fringe playoff team. Fringe, I'm not saying guaranteed, but they were a team that people could see potentially getting the playoffs last year, and they didn't even come close. So I think that's my biggest knock on OBJ.
I don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, for me, I just see it as like it's year 2. I'm just looking at it from a strictly like football thing, and not like he failed expectations. Yeah, there were expectations, but for me, like I think my expectations anyway were like, I think he's gonna do okay first year. I think year 2 he's gonna have a lot better year. He's gonna be year 2 with Baker Mayfield. Now, granted, it's a new offense, and that's gonna hurt a little bit of the progression. But I mean, honestly, if you go look at his numbers, if he just puts up more touchdowns, he's gonna be just fine. He would probably have jumped into the top 10 last year if he just had the touchdowns. But I don't know. I think he's gonna do a lot better. I think they're gonna really be scheming towards him. I think him and Landry both have a good year.
Yeah, I think kind of to Pat's point, the talent, obviously I'm not worried about, but just Kevin Stefanski is the head coach there. Obviously likes to run the ball. And Pat, to your point about target share, I mean they signed Austin Hooper for a ton of money. Kareem Hunt's supposed to play in the slot a lot this year. Jarvis Landry seems to be more connected to Mayfield than OBJ was. I mean, give it, albeit it was his first season with him, but I mean, still, yeah, I just don't know. I think I'm kind of hedging my bets there by placing him a little bit lower. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished in the top 10, but I wouldn't bet on it myself. But
not that Hooper can't catch, but I'm not worried about Hooper. Like personally, I think he got paid more based off of blocking than anything. Man, I don't know. I just feel like he's so much of an elite guy. After the top 2, after Landry and them, they really don't have a third guy. What are you gonna get? Calladay is his name. The other one, Callaway.
yeah, Antonio Callaway,
Yeah,
I think is his name.
I think he played at Florida. Yeah, but like I don't think he's that great. Like, so I mean, I think they're extremely thin at receivers. So if you're talking about strictly receivers, like they really only got 2. I don't know. That's how I'm looking at it. Like I think there's plenty of opportunity. I definitely think they're gonna run the ball, but they're gonna throw the ball too. They're gonna be just fine. You're telling me Minnesota had 2 guys in the top 20 multiple years with Diggs and Thielen, and he was their offensive coordinator. So I feel fine.
I will say this: I think 15 is more than fair for OBJ. I think that's fair. I mean, even though we have him, Pat and I have him low, I think that's fair. Of that top 10, of that 10 there from 11 to 20, I don't think there's a lot that really stands out. I think it's pretty much as expected. Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, Travis Kelce, Juju. I mean, there's not a whole lot there that really stands out. We're kind of high on A.J. Brown, but I think a lot of people are. So I don't think that's that surprising. Yeah. Anyone else you want to talk about here before we move on to our next group?
I'm a lot higher on Tyler Lockett than y'all. I think y'all kind of, I don't know. Are y'all pushing towards the DJ Metcalf?
I am personally. I'm the highest on DK. I don't know. I feel like it's DK's year to step up. I mean, we'll see obviously what happens, but I think DK should be the number 1 guy in Seattle this year.
I think I'm a year away from that myself.
It's possible. I mean, most receivers don't really get there until their 3rd year anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if it takes 1 more year for DK to get the majority of the target shares and everything. But I don't know. I've got a good feeling about him this year, and I really like his spot.
Let me name these next 10, and then we'll circle back to Tyler Lockett real quick because he is in this next group here. And I think it's important to get through this group because this is where you're going to start seeing the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2s, right, like on the teams. So 21, Allen Robinson, disgusting. 22 is DK Metcalf. 23, Cortland Sutton. 24, Tyler Lockett. 25, Calvin Ridley. 26, Devontae Parker. 27 was 28. Mark Andrews, Patrick's love man crush there. Number 29, Jarvis Landry, and 30, Terry McLaurin. So to circle back to Tyler Lockett at 24, I also do have DK Metcalf a little bit higher. Tyler Lockett, I feel like he lives on like super high efficiency with what he does. And I said it last year, it's not going to sustain, he'll drop, and he didn't. He was still 15. But I look through his numbers. I mean, I see a game of like 66 points. I see multiple games of single digits, 6, 5, 0, 9, 3. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like DK going into year 2 should be, and not by a lot. They're very close. They're only two apart. But I feel like he takes enough of the volume that it kind of drags Lockett down a little bit down the rankings. So. And part of it's also a personal vendetta because I had Lockett in another league, and he was garbage in the in the playoffs, and I had to drop him. So it's probably a little bit personal for me too.
Well, I think honestly they hurt each other because Tyler Lockett's a good receiver in my opinion, and I think DK is the future of that offense. I just think really they're going to hurt each other more than anything in fantasy this season.
It's not a super high volume pass offense in Seattle.
It's not.
It really isn't.
Despite their running back production or their fantasy running backs, you would think that you would get like a top 5 running back the way they run the ball, but you don't. You don't get that in Seattle.
Yeah. I can tell you a guy I was surprised to see as low as he was Calvin Ridley. I feel like every year since his rookie season, it's kind of been like this is the breakout. And how many years has he been in the league? 2, I guess, but I feel like it's always been like, Calvin Ridley's going to break out, and I feel like we kind of feel that way this year. But at the same time, I'm kind of cooling on him a little bit too, not knowing what to expect out of Atlanta's offense. But I still was a little surprised to see 25. I don't know why I thought I would see him higher than that, but it still kind of feels right too, if that makes sense.
I mean, at this point, yeah.
I mean, think about it. Everyone but Tyler Lockett is the number 1 target in that offense. Calvin Ridley is the number 2 target in that offense. So to me, it doesn't surprise me that Calvin Ridley's at 25, and we've got Allen Robinson, who none of us are super excited about, is at 21. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only reason we have Allen Robinson that high is because, he's a solid receiver. He's the only receiver in that offense, and he's got a mediocre quarterback, whereas Calvin Ridley is a pretty good receiver, but has an amazing receiver next to him and has a stud quarterback to throw the ball. So I think that really is the Julio Jones effect that hurts Calvin Ridley more than anything.
Would you guys, I'm just looking at some of these guys down here that I feel like I'm okay with. Would you guys take Mark Andrews as your wide receiver too, or maybe your pass catcher too?
Oh,
on your team?
For sure. You guys know I'm super high on him, so yes, without a doubt.
What about you, Cody?
I don't know, man. I don't. It would be hard to.
Okay.
I believe it would be worth it. Obviously, I believe it would be worth it. But at the end of the day, I would like to have invested in. And honestly, I would probably take a guy with a little bit more upside. It's just Mark Andrews' floor is so high. That's what makes him attractive, and that's why he sits where he sits.
Yeah, his floor is super high. I mean, if he gets a little more if Lamar Jackson throws the ball more, it only increases his floor. I think Lamar Jackson only threw the ball like 400 times last year, which is incredibly low because Dak threw like 600 and something times. So, I mean, if they get a little more passing volume in Baltimore, I think he's even more enticing. All right, next group here, and this is where it gets really interesting. Is at this point we're past 24. All of these guys should be drafted and rostered, in this next cluster here. But any of them could be better than others or way worse than others at this point, right? So this is for real. I mean, these guys could be way ahead of where we have them or way well below what we have them. So 31 through 40, Julian Edelman, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, Brandon Cooks at 34, Zach Ertz, Marvin Jones, Marquise Brown at 37, Mark Andrews' teammate, 38, Jamison Crowder. 39, Darren Waller. And Jerry Jeudy, the first rookie, at 40 here, guys. So I'll tell you what, I just want to talk about this guy very briefly because I think I'm fairly high on him, even though I'm lower than you guys. So maybe I'm not as high on him as I thought. Marquise Brown has such a high ceiling. I feel like higher than a lot of guys that are on this list. If the passing volume increases, he could be the number one on the team. He's so talented. He's so fast. But I feel like his floor is like crazy low too. You know what I mean? He's a real boomer.
Yeah.
Going into year 2.
I
would you guys want to roster him?
Oh, I would definitely roster Marquise Brown. I mean, Mark Andrews is a guy who last year who lived and died off touchdowns. I mean, that's why Mark Andrews was so relevant last season. And obviously, I think that touchdown percentage is going to drop in 2020 to 2021. I think Marquise Brown, though, his shoots up drastically coming this season. So I do think he has a ton of upside there. He's a speedster too, really. And I think he adds another dynamic to that offense. I wouldn't be surprised, dude. You're talking about Baltimore throwing the ball more. I could see it, and I could see Marquise Brown being in the epicenter of that.
I don't know. He's not someone I'm like in love with or anything. Like, I'm not going to be, unless it's like a killer deal, I'm probably not going to draft him. Like, unless he drops like a couple rounds. So if I like debate him, and then I'm like, no, I'm just going to take this guy, like, he'd probably have to drop a couple rounds for me to like want to actually take him.
If I had a high floor guy, I might pair him with a guy like Marquise Brown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I had a guy like a Cooper Kupp or someone I feel like could always give me a very consistent score, I might take a guy like a Marquise for bye weeks and things like that, like hoping that I hit him on the week he explodes. But he's interesting nonetheless. 2 guys here in this list, Julian Edelman and Jamison Crowder, both very good in PPR leagues, right? These are guys that should catch a lot of passes. They're going to be the number one on their team. Smaller guys that play in the slot a lot. Any interest in rostering these guys in our league, given that we're a full PPR?
Who was the one after Julian?
Jamison Crowder with the Jets.
I kind of like Crowder, man. I don't know what Mims is going to do to Crowder. I think it's going to be hard for rookies to really make a huge impact. But I think Crowder's been consistent since he's been at Washington, and I've always like found him as like a nice like late season ad in a couple of years, man.
Yeah. I think he'll be fine for sure. I think him and Mims have a different style, the way they play and what role they might have. So I'm not worried too much about Mims taking anything from Crowder himself. I don't think so. Yeah. Zach Ertz is very low. I think people are very kind of off the Zach Ertz train right now. Like they're kind of disappointed. Each of us have him below 33 or 33 and below. So a little disappointed there. So the last cluster here, 41 to 50, all of these guys should be rostered too. I would imagine if every team has 2 pass catchers. AJ Green making his appearance at 41. We're all a little bit down on him. Kytrick and Cody the most with the injury history. Michael Gallup at 42. Partially, I think, because of CeeDee Lamb being drafted there. Golden Tate, 43. Deebo Samuel at 44. This is basically because of the injury, I would imagine, right? Like, they brought in they drafted a receiver in the first round. George Kittle's the number 1 target. They run the ball a lot. There's just way too many negatives stacked against Deebo, I think. May not be healthy by week 1. He's pretty low in our rankings here. In fact, I don't even think he didn't make one of our lists, did he? He didn't make Cody's list.
Nope.
The top 50. Deontay Johnson at 45, Hunter Henry 46, 47 CeeDee Lamb, 48 Will Fuller, 49 Christian Kirk, and 50 the ancient one, the almighty, never gonna die, Larry Fitzgerald. Finds his way on the list. Anyone here that you guys both have Hunter Henry in your top 50? I left him off because much like Cody's thoughts about AJ Green and Deebo Samuel, Hunter Henry has a history of medical issues that I just cannot overlook anymore. I think he's super talented. But my goodness, man, he cannot keep his legs. I mean, everything on his body's falling apart. I just can't do it. So more power to you guys.
Well, the reason why I've got him, I totally acknowledge the injury history there, but my thing is that with a rookie quarterback, I always like having a tight end who has a rookie quarterback throwing to him, and that's why I liked Hunter Henry in that spot. I feel like Hunter Henry could end up having a good year for the games that he does play. He's not a guy that, if you don't draft him, that's totally okay, but he's a guy you could easily stream week in and week out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much the similar reasons. You know, I like him as a nice, big, easy target for that rookie quarterback. I think Patrick's a little higher on him, and I think my rankings reflects like his injury history. You know, I think I'm in this mode where I'm ready to kind of give him like one more shot this year. But I mean, next year if he gets injured again, same thing. It's pretty much similar between like him and Will Fuller. Like if
Yeah.
they can't stay on the field this year, like I think I'm just kind of like over it and I'm done with them, and I think I'm just gonna take them off my ranking. That's pretty much what I did with AJ Green. Like at this point, like I'm done like trying to mess with AJ Green. He's just literally off my board. Like I don't even want to look at his name because like every year, like me and several other people think they get like this big old steal and and he's about to have his come out party and he gets hurt, man. And then Debo, the only reason I think Debo is going to be an excellent player when he gets back, I just think it's going to take time for him to get acclimated and ready. I mean, he's a
Yep.
short area type guy, and those short little quick cuts are what makes him dominant. Um, I just think it's going to take a second. So therefore, like at the end of the day, these rankings are reflected on what it's going to end as, and I think he's not going to. I don't think he's going to make the top 50 at the end of the year, but not saying he won't be a top 50 type player when he's on the field.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
his averages would definitely 100% be in the top 50, maybe even the top 30.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it depends how much playing time he ends up missing.
Yeah, they said ready. They said that he might be ready by week 1, which means he won't be ready by week 1.
Exactly.
I absolutely guarantee it. They always do this. I'll be ready by week 4. It takes 3 extra weeks. He will not play until week 3 or 4, and even then, like Cody said, I just don't think he comes back. Yeah, the volume, I don't think it comes back. They drafted Brandon Ayuk. George Kittle's there. They run the ball a lot. There's just way too many factors against him, in my opinion, to be a top guy this season. But I think he's super talented. A couple of things to note here. We have only 2 teams that have 3 receivers in the top 50, I believe, with that being the Cowboys and the Cardinals. So I think that's pretty reflective of what we expect from those offenses. They're both pretty high-powered, I think. 2 other things to note. Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey did not make our top 50. In fact, Alshon Jeffrey was only on 1 list. Deshaun Jackson didn't appear on any of them.
That was my list. Yeah.
That was Patrick's list.
Alshon falls in my AJ category.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he falls. Yeah, I am totally away from Alshon Jeffrey. Like, and I think it's interesting because we all had Carson Wentz relatively high, and so you look at that and you're like, well, how can you have Wentz high and only have 1 tight end from the Eagles in the top 50? And I think, at least for me, is that Miles Sanders, Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jalen Reagor all split that workload almost evenly, and all of them are dragged down by that. And then Zach Ertz is kind of the one beneficiary of being in the top 35, you know?
With my thought process with that whole thing, it was just I didn't know who. You can't pinpoint any of those guys yet.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like, where do you place them? Well, I'm not going to place them on a list if I don't even know if they're going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So they are all off the list. There are a lot of teams, obviously, that have 2 guys. Really interesting fact. The Redskins only have 1 receiver on this list, and that's Terry McLaurin. And before Terry McLaurin, the Redskins would have had no receivers on this list, at least for me. For the last, I'm sorry, they're not the Redskins anymore. The Washington football team.
That's right.
I had to catch myself. The Washington football team. So. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. I don't think this top 50 is surprising. I'm very happy with our top 50 consensus. I think it's very fair to all of the players here. I'm sure there's some guys listening that are like upset that we have someone on their team too high or too low, or or what have you. But any final thoughts before we get off? We sign off for this week?
No, that's it. I guess we got linebacker rankings this coming weekend. Sorry for the delay on the episode, guys. Like James said, we were all kind of busy. We're gonna make sure we get the other one out on time this coming weekend for linebackers.
Yeah, it's been nuts, but we're back. We'll get back on track. Absolutely. So, all right, guys. Well, I do not. Let me see if I can get the outro here real quick, Pat. I'm not sure if this is going to be possible. We've had some technical issues, which is what's caused our delay here. Oh man,
Cody's gonna sing a song if you can't find one. Get ready, Cody.
Oh,
Your choice.
Man, I can't.
God bless America.
There it is.
All right,
There it
Here we
is.
go. Hold on. I actually found it. That actually did give me a little bit of time.
Oh, I hope someone listened that long.
We'll see you guys later.